welcome in. My name is Koyeda. If you don't know who I am, I help service providers and beauty professionals make multiple streams of income. I'm so glad you are here. Today, we're talking about fear to forward, and it's 3 tiny moves that builds confidence. With anything, there's always a level of concern, and we're going to call that fear. And we know, and I'm letting you know today, that fear does not have to disappear before you take action, right? It can actually be used as a compass. So I'm going to give you 3 ways to help you break through that stage, okay? So when it comes to fear, we know it's something that can be very debilitating, right? It can lead you to freeze up, become anxious, stifle your creativity, your purpose, and stop you from making decisions and from making money, right? And my son developed a fear of bugs. He's somewhere around the corner, so he's hearing this. And I don't exactly know where that fear came from, but I sat him down and I told him that it's normal, but it shouldn't disrupt your life. And it's really how you work your way out of that. I even proceeded to give him a scripture, which is 2 Timothy 1 verses 7, which says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind," right? And I said to him, or sound mind or self-control, depending on which interpretation you're reading. And I said to him, your fear impacts all those 3 areas. And if God did not give us a spirit of fear, who gave it to us, right? Who gave it to you? So that's a question you have to sit down and think about as you move through this feeling. So fear is impacting your power. It's impacting your love and your ability to control yourself. If you find yourself acting out of the norm, pay attention to that when you're in that stage, because it's telling you what's going on, right? So it can feel small, or it can make you feel small. It can make you feel defeated. It can make you feel doubtful. And I could go on, because fear can manifest itself in different ways and with different feelings. But what I don't want it to do is impact your business. So let's talk about the steps you could take, because we all know part of the reason you're fearful is because you're fearful of making the wrong move. I can testify to that. When you're in any kind of space, business, whatever it is, sometimes we fear that next step, like what is going to happen next? You're fearful. And that's where the spirit of perfection comes in, right? You're so afraid that you don't want to take the next step, and it becomes a paralysis. You become paralyzed by all of that. And so that's the fear. That's the fear of making the wrong move, the fear of losing what you've built, or stepping into something new. Again, been there, done that, can write a book on it. In fact, I am writing a little ditty on that, so I'm going to be sharing that soon. But one step that you could take, one quick, small step you could take, is to shrink the decision. Shrink the decision. So instead of making a huge leap, instead of thinking about this grandiose idea, find the smallest next step and take that. Find the smallest next step and take that. So if you were thinking about launching a new offer, doing something new, opening up a new business or something of that nature, break it down to just getting the ideas out, right? Lay all the ideas out first. That's a small step you can take, because what the problem is that we tend to think about the whole thing instead of the smaller picture, right? And then what happens is we psych ourselves up, we overwhelm ourselves instead of taking the small action. Tongue-tied. Instead of taking the small action, and taking the small option actually keeps the fear from turning into full-blown paralysis, right? So that's why we take the smaller steps, because we're trying to avoid that analysis paralysis, or that full-blown paralysis. So number 1 is to shrink the decision. And number 2, borrow courage. We are in this informational space. We come in contact with some of our favorite people. We see them on Instagram. We see them all over. And you can borrow their courage. So that's mentors, that is your peers. And what they provide is proof of what's possible, right? So surround yourself with people like that, because you want to know that it's possible, not just for them, but also for you. So I've seen that in my own life. When I've decided to start, multiple ventures, I usually examine who's in that area first, and you develop a liking for someone in particular, and I've done that, and that's kind of helped me. That person is a model for what can happen and who I can become. And because you need a success model or a possibility model, so you can see success in motion. And that's what they represent for you. They represent success in motion, because fear shrinks in the presence of possibility, right? So when you see what's possible, when you see someone who's in the space you're in, and you follow them, or follow their journey, or use them as your mentor, it shrinks that feeling in your brain. So it may not disappear, but it won't take precedence in your decision making. The feeling may not disappear, but it won't be an overwhelming feeling or hindrance to you, right? So number one, as I said, shrink the decision. Number two is to borrow courage. And number three is to reframe the fear. Reframe the fear. And that, I thought, this is a brilliant one. Reframing the fear, because fear usually just gives you one answer. I'm just afraid of this thing. But if you start to see fear as data, right? See it as data, not danger, because it's showing you, and it's pointing to something that truly matters. This matters to you. So for me, I can't exactly tell you that I love doing lives, because I do not. Okay. I don't love hosting lives, but it's showing me what's possible, right? The mere fact that I am stepping into it and I have a fear of it is showing me what's possible in life. It's showing me what taking a step forward can do and will do if I just keep going. And I want you to think about that. If you're scared, it's probably because you're trying to step forward in your life, and there may be an underlying issue of concern. That's why I'm an advocate for therapy as well, right? The other coin, or the other part of the coin, is that there may be underlying issues, which is why I advocate for therapy. And because some issues are actually deep-rooted. Some issues stem from somewhere that you cannot identify, and you need the extra help to pull it, right? So that's why, as I said, therapy is a great thing. So let's look at the three steps to tiny moves to building confidence, right? So number one, as I said, we are going to shrink the decision. Instead of thinking big picture when you're trying to do something awesome, amazing, launch a new product, or so, whatever it is, shrink it down. List out all the ideas that you could use, right? List out all the ideas you have in your head, put it on paper and start there. Number two, borrowing courage. Look at the people that are in the spaces and areas you want to be in. Get your mentor, get your success stories, get your peers, get all of those people and use them as use them as a goal or a motivation to help you thrive. And number three, we talk about reframing the fear. So instead of looking at fear as something that is bad, look for it as data, because it's telling you something. And so when it comes to the next stage of your business, that's where Build for More comes in, because it's an audit, right? That helps you look at those areas so we can work to eliminate that fear and help you build something successful for your next season. So the idea here is not to eliminate the fear, but to learn and walk with it while you build something that holds you, right? While you build something that prepares you for the next stage. So if you're ready to take the next step, I apologize today. My tongue was twisted. My words were not getting out. I had to rush down here. So I apologize again, but use the link in my bio to sign up for Build for More. We are in the last week of this program, and there's about 3 spaces left. And if you want to get that, please do, because the entry level to work with me is a higher price point than this presents, right now. So if that's something you're interested in, as I said, link in bio, or you can send me a message, right? So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next